I have the power! La 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 la. Welcome to the Old Boys podcast with your faithful lying minstrels, Jared
Call me
and
a
Dan.
minstrel?
What? Yeah, we're both minstrels. This is a show where everything's made up and the points don't matter.
That is
Thank
100% accurate about every aspect of the show.
And life.
Mm-hmm.
So much we can learn from whatever fucking network aired them for however long they did.
So this is a podcast.
This is a podcast where I fix my microphone thingy because it's falling. And make
And then
a lot
after
of
Dan
noise into
fixes
the
his
microphone.
Yeah, really good.
This is a movie podcast. We talk about some cool things, namely movies, and we yell into the microphones about how good or bad they are, yell into the microphones about how good or bad each other is. And of course, you may listen to every single bit and never turn us off.
Yay, forever.
Forever.
Yeah, and we reviewed a film called Tale of Tales.
Tales.
You said it like Wheel of Fortune.
That's what I was trying to
Tale
do.
of
Tales.
Tales. Boop, boop, ba-doo. Yes, 2015.
Yes, 2015. This film is a little. Is it safe to say that it's like a fairy tale, Jared?
Doy.
The fairy tale of tales? This is the
Of
fucking
course.
fairy tale of tales, guys. You need to go watch this film. Here, if you need me to sell you on it, Salma Hayek is in it, being all Salma Hayek and trying not to ruin the movie. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Salma Hayek. There's just a couple scenes where she's like, just stop talking. You're taking me away from the film. Anyway, it's all in the same universe, and all of these stories, there's 3 different stories that are told. Is it 3 or is it 4? I think it's 3.
It's 3.
There's 3 different stories that are told, and they all kind of mingle into one another at certain parts of the film, and you can see all the characters at one. Basically, it's a big kingdom, and everybody's like, they're different kings within the kingdom that govern certain areas. One of them is a fucking sex hound. The other one is like super reverse Oedipus complex with her kid.
Clownplex?
Clownplex. Did I say clownplex? Oedipus
Sounded
complex. But then the final one, it's, oh my God, it's twofold. Each one of these stories is super complex. I'm not really giving you all of it, but the last one has to do with a giant flea and then an ogre.
Yeah, that one gets fucking weird.
But all of them get really fucking weird because, like, I really like the dynamic of Salma Hayek's one too, and then
the giant flea.
The complexity of the 2 sisters too gets.
Oh,
you
the
know,
old
no.
hag.
Here's
Yes,
how it
that
goes.
was one
Here's
of
how
the
it goes,
stories,
guys. I feel like Italy knows how to tell fairy tales better than anybody else because they're so intricate and there's so much going on in each one of them, and you really need to trust me whenever I say, watch this fucking movie. It is my favorite one that we've done in a long time.
Well, yeah, this is my favorite fairy tale movie. That's for fucking sure.
Well, I'm saying, like, in terms of holistically, I don't know if I would call it a top 10, but holy shit, this movie blew my fucking mind. This guy, can you say his name for me? Matteo, what's his last name?
Let's see here. Garone? Garone?
Garone. Right?
I don't know if yeah, okay.
He's an Italian dude.
Matteo
Anyway,
Garone.
that guy, he's the same guy that did Gomorrah. Have you seen that film?
No, it sounds very familiar.
It's the one
Tell
with
me what
like
that is.
the skinny white kid in underwear with a pistol on the cover.
No.
Well, it's a pretty good movie. So he's actually a really good director with what he has done, but he's going to be doing a fucking live action version of Pinocchio. soon.
Whoa.
Which,
Okay.
after I saw this, I'm like, he can totally fucking do that.
Well, apparently this is his first English film he has done,
Yes.
as far as I can tell from the trivia. And first impressions on this, I like this movie. It's incredibly well shot. Some of these sets and set designs and costumes are out of control. Amazing. Like, I don't know where they're filming, but it looked like a real fairy tale. Like,
You
where
can
the
find
hell?
that by looking it up. I'll look that up for you. You keep talking.
I'm sure some of this
Shut-
stuff is like CG
I mean,
or
keep
I don't
going.
know what it is, but they did a really good job. All of it looked amazing. They definitely used real castles, but this movie's visuals are astounding.
Filming
And
locations, all in Italy.
Italia.
Lots of castles
makes
in
sense.
Italy. Yeah.
It does show that a lot of the cast, English might not be their first language.
Mm-hmm.
Even in it was weird because like when the actors feel like they deliver their lines in a bizarre way, but it fits the film. It fits that weird fairy tale.
That's not what I was talking about with
quality.
Salma Hayek.
Uh-huh.
Like, there's this one moment, she does fantastic throughout the entire film, but there's one scene where she's like, just somehow starts dropping the ball where she just is she's becoming Salma Hayek and not the queen. And I'm like,
Yes,
stop,
yeah. She's
stop.
lost the
And
character.
then she got it again. I'm like, oh, thank
When
God.
was it when she was berating her son?
Yes,
to
that's
not-
exactly.
Yeah.
I was
Her
getting
accent
so
slipped, and
upset.
it was like
I was getting so upset. I'm like, please come back. Please.
yeah, her accent slipped pretty hard. I liked her in this though.
Oh yeah, no, she was fantastic.
And it's the performances were interesting. I liked all of them. I thought everybody did a good job. Overall, this movie was really good. I liked it a lot. It's very bizarre.
I have my first impressions as well. This
Sure.
movie gets an A++. I wrote that down like 5 times next to certain notes where I'm like, holy shit. I wrote down what the fuck in all caps like 5 times. Holy shit, all caps 2 times. No way. This movie is like the best kind of surprising too, where it's like I probably should have seen some of the shit that happens coming, but I'm like, oh no! I love that feeling I get where it's like I don't see it coming, it happens. I'm like, that was fucking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And
I liked how the stories were set up in this film, where it's not just here's the first story, okay, that's over. Now here's the second story, and it doesn't even use that plot device of like one character is telling someone else the 3 stories or like any of that shit. It's just all 3 of these stories are happening all at the same time.
Yes.
And they all kind of they're not necessarily related, but they're all interwoven together. And they all deal with just different aspects of people's, I guess, greed or wants. People's wants like overtaking them and ruining their lives. And I thought it was pretty cool. And I was doing research on this, and somebody brought up a good, I think it was on like Wikipedia or something. That's where I do my research. You see, I'm very well versed in lots of research I put into this podcast. But in there, they made a good point of saying, I think this was from the director. He was saying that he picked these tales. I think they're all from the same author.
It is.
These
Yeah,
fairy
they
tales.
are.
And he arranged them in a way so that these 3 reflected different stages of a woman's life, from being a young girl to being a mother to being an old woman. And I thought that was really cool, and like the different desires
And they
that you have at that different times.
Absolutely,
in your life.
and I really like that aspect of it. I picked up on that one for sure. But like, what I found interesting about it is it doesn't go chronologically like that. It starts middle age and like having the kid first.
Yes.
And then it goes to old age, if I'm remembering correctly.
Uh-huh.
And then to the younger one, which it was a really weird way of doing it. But like, I don't. You watch this film for everything. Like, the narrative is fantastic. The payoffs for all the stories are fantastic. But more than anything, these set pieces, like just the mise en scène and the cinematography, are incredible. And the music is amazing too. It's like, it's fucking phenomenal fairy tale music. It blows your mind. At least it blew my mind on so many different levels.
The editing, costume design,
editing
was
too.
out of fucking control.
Not sure.
It was so good.
Oh, and there were a lot of funny moments too. I was laughing a lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how you want to organize this, but a lot of my notes are either praising the movie or developing a problem that's not there, but it made me laugh whenever I thought about it in that way. So how do you want to do?
I thought we could just go. I mean,
story by story.
We could do that.
Let's go story by story because the film does it the opposite way, where it like intermingles everything.
Yes, it's all together.
So, which story do you want to start with first? The Salma Hayek
story.
story.
I think we should go.
That's my first note.
With what?
The Salma Hayek story.
Oh, I believe her story is the first story, and then we'll end on the two old hags.
That sounds good.
That kind of ties into the ending of the movie.
So here's my first note. Basically, what's going on in this film is John C. Reilly, Salma Hayek can't have a kid, and she's super upset about it. Basically, there was like a jester that was pregnant, and she got really, really upset because she can't have that. And there's this weird fucking necromancer type oracle dude that walks up to them one night. Just they let him in for some reason. And here's what he says.
Slender Man?
Yeah, Slender Man. This is what he says to them.
Guy.
He says,
"You want a child? Every new life calls for a life to be lost. The equilibrium of the world must be maintained. Do you understand?"
I am prepared to die in order to feel life grow inside me.
We are speaking of possibility, not certainty. Are you willing to accept the risk?
What must we do?
Hunt down a sea monster. Cut out its heart and have it cooked by a virgin, but she must be alone. When your Majesty eats the heart, you will become pregnant instantly.
now, here's my question, Jared. Why can't they just fuck? Do they not know what fucking is?
The sea monster bit seems reasonable, and I don't see why you have a problem with this. This is very easy. Let's get it done. It is implied, Dan, that they cannot have a baby and that they have tried.
I know,
obviously.
I know that's the implication, but it's never explained like out loud. So I'm like,
I thought they did a decent job.
No. The joke is like they never mention that they can't do it. So you just have this one guy coming in. He's like, "Hey, you should do all this crazy ass shit, and then you can do it." And he's like, "Well, why don't you just fuck? Have you tried that yet?"
Dan, movies aren't a joking matter. And
Hey, I think they're
upset
fucking
that you would
hilarious.
make light of such a profound film.
Now,
John C. Reilly likes to fuck. Everyone knows that.
John C. Reilly doesn't like to fuck, but you know what else he likes to do?
Act his face off.
And tell me that you were fucking surprised by this as I was.
What?
That fucking diving suit from the
Was
1800s.
gangster.
Oh
Yeah.
my fucking god. It was
sick.
amazing.
I like how
as soon as I saw him getting into it, I'm like, oh my god. I
loved
this.
it. The visuals in that cave, I want to go to that cave.
Oh,
That
yes.
cave was amazing looking. It was so cool. Because they're like out, it was like the cave is like half inside, half outside. The water was beautiful. And the rocks are like these weird squares, like square pillars all stacked together. Oh, it was crazy. It was like
now,
nuts. I don't know.
well, speaking of nuts. Speaking of nuts. It was at that point where you were talking like what you just outlined, what you described for the listeners. I wrote down not even 10 minutes in, and I'm getting a complete cinema boner. So, yes, everything you just said. It's gorgeous to look at.
Mm-hmm. And he dives down into the ocean to find this this sea monster, I guess. It's like a
Tell
water
me, Jared,
dragon.
how much of that sea monster was CGI versus practical effects?
I think all of it was a practical effect.
There were a couple moments where it was CG because it broke down, according to the trivia. But the majority of the fucking film, it's a gigantic fucking salamander looking.
Well, that's how you do it. It's called the Spielberg.
God.
Classic Spielberg. I don't know about new Spielberg.
It's just a fucking gigantic salamander sleeping on the bed of a river. And it was it was cool and horrifying and awesome all at the same time.
It was amazing. It looked so fucking cool.
I was
and
so
then
happy.
when he sneaks upon it while it's sleeping and he stabs it in the head and you're like, fuck yeah, because that's how a fairy tale that's how these stories really went. They didn't have like a gallant fight or whatever. It's like, oh, I tricked you or something.
Yeah.
I somehow killed you. And then the king gets swiped by the tail of the monster.
Yes.
Almost on accident.
Yes.
John
B. Smiley dies, yes.
Yeah. And he is on the he brings the monster back out somehow. And they have the heart, and the queen comes and sees that the king has died. Doesn't give a shit about that. Doesn't even say a word, like over his corpse or anything.
It's good to note that the Slender Man bro says something along the lines like, "You can do it this way, but there's always a catch."
Well, he's like, if you want to bring life into the world, there's going to be some death. And
yes.
do you take the risk? It's like Full Metal Alchemist, basically.
Yes, exactly. Like you know what? This movie is Full Mackerel.
Malcolm in the Middle East.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, shit. And it was pretty gangster, and I liked it. And it really set up her character and motivations, because I'm like, oh, this lady really doesn't give a shit about anything but this kid. She is obsessed with this desire to have this little kid, even to the point of sacrificing her own husband. And so she takes the heart, and she finds a virgin, which I thought...
this heart is like as big as 3 footballs, by the way.
Oh, yeah. It's real big. You could not play football with this heart, unfortunately. You could try, but it might be messy. And it was still beating, too.
It'd be very difficult to eclipse this heart as well. Because of how big
a total eclipse. And she has this maiden prepare it, this poor girl. And I thought, oh, maybe she's not a virgin or something. That's going to be the big trick. But no, it works. And then the fumes from the boiling pot, when she throws the heart in, it hits her nostrils and she becomes pregnant. And then the queen, when she eats the heart, it does work and she becomes pregnant as well.
As one does. See, yes. I thought I knew about fucking, but
yeah,
now that I really understand how the world works, I did extensive research, and my ways have been changed. Like, the only way to get pregnant anymore is to inhale the fumes of a sea monster.
Well, no, this is how albinos are born.
Oh, you're right.
So it's different.
Powder,
when the 2 kids are
Powder
born,
grew some hair and cloned himself.
Yes, he did. He bought a nice wig for himself. These 2 boys are very white. Their hair is white. Their eyelashes are all white, like the dragon, basically. And they're both identical twins.
Yes.
But they're both born from different mothers. One the queen, one the poor lady. What?
Jerry?
Yes. You know we're recording, right? What do you want?
I was talking about Jerry Springer. Jerry Springer.
Springfield.
Now, I don't think we really covered this scene the way I really want to cover it, because you did a good job of like explaining how the virgin gets pregnant and then Salma Hayek eats the heart. But here's my note for that.
Sure.
What the fuck? The scene of her eating the goddamn heart is, oh my god. Like, you know it's going to happen because it's on the cover of Netflix. But whenever you actually see it happen in the room that you see it happening in, you're like, this, I don't know how I want to feel about it. It's horrifying.
You know what this movie does really well, too, is it uses the lack of sound to illustrate different scenes.
Yes.
There are a lot of scenes where there is no dialogue and there is almost no music, or no music at all, and it's just the sounds of what people are doing, like people walking. Like the very opening scene is just I think it's a man in a dress.
Yeah,
walking down the street.
He's one of the jesters. He's walking towards the palace, and this director, I think, has like this fetish with filming people from behind.
Yeah, and I thought my sound was broken. I was like, is there sound in this movie? What's going on? And it was just an aesthetic choice that he just lets you sit there with the film for like 2 or 3 minutes before anything really happens. And I actually really liked it. I was like, whoa, I'm really getting into like this weird world. And then it gets into like the jesters in the court, you know, doing all that silly shit. And they use that a lot, that imagery of entertainers doing different things for these kings and queens or whatever. I wonder if that means anything. Because that happens. It's almost like a transition to different things. Like, that's how they introduce the different kings. Also, I was very confused about these 3 different... there's 2 kings and 1 queen. I didn't get that the other characters were supposed to be royalty in different kingdoms. Like, I thought they were all, like, in the same place. So when the king dies...
Yes.
And the queen
John
gets
C.
pregnant...
Reilly king.
Yes. When they have the funeral, we meet all the other characters...
Correct.
From the different stories. I thought they were just... people at the funeral, and that one dude who was like having sex with those 2 girls in the carriage, because it shows the second king with his little daughter, and he's like coochie coochie coo,
Scoochie,
coochie
actually.
coochie coo, scoochie coochie coochie, and then it cuts to like this dude hardcore, grabbing boobies. I was like, I don't know who these characters are, and then they keep saying they're kings, and I'm like, wait, is that guy the new king? But no, he's the king of his own country, and they came for the funeral for this king. So I was like, oh, okay. Was that confusing at all to you? Did you get it?
I mean, at
right away?
first, I thought it wasn't confusing. I was just along for the ride. I'm like, oh, these must be important characters too, because they are faces I recognize. And then later on, I'm like, oh, he's a king. Okay, I get it. What's the next thing that happens with this story? I'll tell you what the next thing that happens with the story. We have a new person performing. Mm-hmm. This person is a bear. Did this remind you of anything?
My childhood?
A bear on a motorcycle? Replaced by a woman in a bear costume?
Oh, no. No. It just made me think of Russia, because the guy was saying Russian. Oh, my God.
Saying Russian?
Yeah, he was saying Russian. He was like, Russian.
Russian.
And I was like, oh, this is weird. Why does he keep saying that? And then he stopped, and it was over.
So what happens next? I feel like there's something that happens.
Well, if we're sticking with that story.
Yes, the 2 twinsies are forbade to see each other because one is a pauper, the other is a prince.
Yes, a pauper and a prince. The 2...
And Mama Hayek can't have that. She's like, you're royalty,
yes.
bruh. But there's a really cool scene that we are introduced to the other one in which that cheese is trying to be found by the mice in the maze, actually.
It's cheddar, motherfucker. Boom! Yes, this maze scene where she's walking around going, Elias, just chasing this kid. And you totally get this kid does not want his mom to find him. But she's having so much fun. She wants unconditional love from this kid because this is the only thing she's ever wanted her entire life. And she can't even share it with anyone else. And it's like her son loves her, I guess. But he feels a kinship between this other guy, this other boy, who's basically his identical twin, because they are really brothers through this magic or whatever. And she's so jealous of that she'll do anything to get rid of this guy, even try to murder him later on. And by doing that, she drives a wedge between her and her own son through her own jealousy of wanting to only be with him. And it ends up getting her killed at the end, which is pretty cool.
I love that.
So I liked it.
So,
but in classic fairy tale fashion, so when you're listening or reading a fairy tale, there's always things that are just like, just accept whatever this is.
there's always once upon a time too.
Yeah. And it's just like, this is how the thing is. Like that weird necromancer magic. Like, eat this heart and you'll get pregnant. And you're like, just don't think about it.
But see, that's why I was so like flustered, because I was thinking about it. I'm like, why don't they just fuck?
I don't know. I kind of like the weird mystery of the,
the
magic.
I do for sure.
And what you were saying about the maze scene, that maze, I think it's real.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
it was like a stone maze
Yeah.
instead of a hedge maze, and it was fantastic. I loved it.
Anyway, in a scene shortly after that, I believe it cuts away and then comes back, and basically, Jonah, the one who is not
Jonah Hill
royalty, yes, Jonah Hill is in this movie. Anyway, the twin that is not royalty goes into Salma Hayek's room and pretends to be the Elias.
Yes,
and then Salma Hayek kind of finds out. She's like, "This is weird. I know my own son." And
I think she finds out by smelling him.
Yeah,
and that happens a lot in this movie. No, I won't say a lot. Several times, where characters smell something and then
it works.
It's like he who smelt it may have dealt it, and I think that's a really important thing to take away from this film.
Anyway, Elias and Jonah have this little powwow. It's like, oh, we can get away with anything because your mom got confused.
Your mom's a dumb
while
bitch.
This is all happening, Salma Hayek is looking on them from above, and you're like, uh-oh.
Yes! This is so crazy this bitch is.
While they're like divulging their sinister plot to switch places, Salma Hayek is just eavesdropping, and I'm like,
it's not even
news,
sinister. They're just when he becomes king, when he gets old enough, he'll become the new king automatically because he's a boy. And he's like, we'll just switch places every day. Like, you can be king for a day, I'll be king for a day. It's not even like, let's like kill our mother or something. And then she comes in. Did you think that so she gets furious and she goes and knocks on the door, and one kid has a jacket on, the other one doesn't. Mm-hmm. And they switch jackets. And I thought, oh, the mother's going to come in and accidentally kill her own son, thinking it's the other kid.
Oh, yeah.
But the movie is like, no, we know you're thinking that, so we're going to do the exact opposite.
Yeah.
And it was like a red herring right there where you're like, the tension was real because I'm like, oh, shit, is she going to fucking kill her son on accident?
And she does.
And then raise this other boy? Yeah, and then is he going to pretend? None of that happens. That whole plot line is just there to fuck with you. And they do that several times throughout this movie, which I like a lot.
Anyway, the next scene, she follows that kid out, and in order to dispose of him completely, she beats him in the meat.
Well, she doesn't beat him in the meat, Dan.
She beats him in the meat.
She beats him near the meat. So he's
near.
No,
I would say that she was in the meat. Yes.
God damn it. He's in like a dark passage of a larder, and there's dead animals hanging around, where they store all the food.
An abattoir, if you will.
Not Avatar. That's wrong
abattoir.
Movie, Dan.
Check.
Dan, I told you not to call me that on mic.
She beats him in the meat, and he gets scared.
Damn it. And he escapes. And it's pretty traumatizing to have a lady who's basically kind of related to you, your stepmom, I guess, in a way, trying to kill you.
Is she, though? I feel like... No. It's the sea monster.
It's confusing.
The sea monster.
Yeah, you're right. Sea monster daddy.
Yes.
And then,
Sea monster daddy.
Sea monster daddy. So he decides, I'm going to leave because if I don't leave, I'm going to die or something bad's going to happen to my good friend, Elias. So he starts to leave and Elias is like, yo, brah, where are you going? We're best friends. Why are you leaving? And he doesn't tell him what's going on, but he's like, all right, listen, I got to go, but I'm going to leave my pager number here, and here's how I'm going to do it. So he stabs He takes out a knife and stabs this tree. And the tree starts shooting water out of it. And he's like, you see this? This is a lifeline right here. All right? We're playing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Here's how my brain works. Okay. I was totally okay with getting pregnant from a fucking sea monster heart. But the minute that I saw water shooting out of the root of a tree, I'm like, no, that doesn't fucking work like that.
I thought it was fucking cool.
I thought it was too, but at first I'm like, this is stupid. Like, what does this mean? And I'm like, oh, wait, this is a fairy tale.
And it's a little weird that, like, just random characters can do magic shit. Because, like, if it's a witch or if it's that weird necromancer, I get it, you know? Because this is some weird shit that happens later on. But you're like, oh, they just know magic. But, like, did this kid just know magic this whole time? What?
Well, I mean,
I guess it's kind of implied that they're magical because they're from the dragon.
Yes. And in case you didn't know, there's an extended underwater scene in which they hide from their babysitters.
Oh yeah, that was neat. They were like swimming between their legs or something in like really shallow water. That was bizarre. And they can hold their breath for a long fucking time. So maybe that is an indicator if they have some magic ability. But it didn't bother me. I loved it. I thought it was a really cool idea. And he's like, if this water gets muddy, then that means I'm in trouble. If it ever stops, that means I'm dead as shit. So the king or the prince would go and visit this little pool every day to check on it. And I guess some time passes. Mm-hmm. And he notices, oh shit, the water's literally blood right now. Mm-hmm. That's probably not good. So he sets off on a quest to go find his bro.
And he finds his bro in a cave.
Yeah, bro cave. He's in there, and his twin brother is wounded, and he fell, I guess, into a hidden cave, and he can't climb his way out. And he's in there, and he's calling for help because he hears somebody above him. And it's such a great shot where it's showing him looking behind him, but in the background, a bat swoops in, and you're like, what the fuck? And it's at this point that
a bat.
Batman. Batman shows up, saves him. No, because the necromancer tricks the queen again, and he's like, "Oh, if you want to get your son to stay with you permanently, you're gonna have to do some violent shit." And she's like, "I'll do whatever it takes. You already know that."
Now,
and we don't see what happens to her.
We don't see, and that's very important because she turns out to be the bat, but you don't fucking know that. You don't know that. And then there's this really cool... So basically, she's trying to kill Jonah, the injured one, and then Elias kind of swoops in at the very last second, and then kind of like pushes him away and tries to like kill him. And as soon as the bat looks at Elias, he stops and he looks at him, and he's like...
Yeah.
And I didn't even think of anything of that. I'm like, what is happening here?
Oh, I was like, what the fuck is going on? I couldn't figure it out.
No. I'm saying like, I didn't figure it out, but I'm like, what is this? Why is the bat... What? And then he fucking murders the hell out of that bat with his little knife stick. Because it's not a knife and it's not a stick, but it's somewhere in between. And it turns out to be Salma Hayek. I'm like, no. Yeah. And that was the best payoff
Can we
ever.
Describe this bat for a little bit?
Yes,
because
please.
It is amazing looking. It's huge. It is a man-sized bat with these giant claw wings, and it's like... crawling towards him in this very narrow cave. It's fucking terrifying. Like if I was reading this in a fairy tale, I'd be like this, or a book or anything. I'd be like,
if I were a kid and watched this scene, I would be traumatized.
Oh, this kid. Well, this is not for kids for sure.
Are you sure?
No. Dan. But no, it was really cool, and I think they seem practical. I don't know if there was any CGI involved in that. I know they do mix it in very well, like we said earlier, like with the flea and stuff later on. But man, what a cool shot of like that thing crawling after him. It was pretty great. I thought that, like, wouldn't the queen have a harder time killing the twin brother because it looks exactly like her own son anyways?
No, because the queen knows her own son.
I guess so. But yeah, so it basically ends with the prince saves his boy and brings him back to his friends and family, and he becomes king. His mom is just missing. I don't think they even know what happens to her. And that's kind of the end of that story until we wrap it up at the very end
Correct.
of the movie.
So the next tale is Violet, the young princess who is looking for a guy to bone.
Yeah, and this is what we were making fun of in the beginning of this episode.
Because the beginning
la,
of
la,
this
la singing.
The beginning of this tale is this girl Violet just singing to her dad. Something about la la la, and that's all it is.
Yeah, very
intense.
Very
lyrics. Intense. And then she's like, I dedicate this one to my father. And then he's sitting in front of her not paying attention. And it's the funniest shit.
Well, it is a perfect summation of what the story is going to be because the flea is like his hobby or his thing that he's doing. Like this is his obsession, and it's tearing him apart from the rest of his family. So he becomes a shitty dad and everything else because of this thing that he's obsessed with. And something that's frivolous. So it's almost like the flea is meaningless, but he loves it so much. So he finds this flea on his hand, and he's trying to like smack it and get rid of it while she's singing the song. And then he finds out that he can like play with it by like opening his hands up and closing them, and the flea will jump into different his left or right hand. Mm-hmm. To the point where once she's done singing the song, he like barely claps, stands up, and walks out of the room. Yes. He doesn't say a word. It was pretty funny. And then he starts to like feed the flea, and he keeps it as a pet. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Now, I'm not sure how I feel about the CGI flea. I feel like that's the biggest thing that took me out of the movie.
Well, they don't show it for too long. And
I suppose so.
There's other scenes where it is practical, which is cool.
Yeah.
So they mix it in with practical effects, but I guess at that time they were like, we can't make a little baby flea. Or maybe they couldn't make it move as fast as they wanted it to. So I was, it is kind of gross to see that, but I was able to forgive the movie pretty fast.
Oh, yeah, I was
amazing
able to,
practical effects. Like the giant sea dragon or whatever, when they cut it open, it was like, holy shit, that is one giant prop.
Yeah.
They're like pulling the heart out of it. This is awesome. And so he starts to become obsessed over it. And he's feeding it his own blood, and then he is ignoring his daughter because she wants to marry a husband and leave and go off on her own adventures and actually, like discover what the world is and fall in love. And her father's just like, I don't really care. Like, I just want to fuck around with this flea, and I'm gonna ignore you, and that's just how things are. So he just keeps putting it off, like, yeah, I'll find you a husband, yeah, but I'm going to hang out with my flea for a while. And it gets to the point where this thing gets so big that it is like a giant cow. It's huge. And I thought it was going to be a Seymour type of thing, like from Little Shop of Horrors, where he was going to start feeding people to it. But the story, again, subverted my expectations, of course, with the flea dying. And
yes.
he calls the doctor in. And he's like, doctor, I need to see you. Oh. And the doctor comes in thinking he's going to like, oh, maybe the king is ill. And he sees this giant flea and he's like freaking out. He's like, help it. And the guy's like, oh my God. And I thought that the flea was going to start eating the doctor or something.
Right.
Nope, doesn't happen. The flea dies. And I don't know, Dan, what would you do if, a pet that you loved for a long time had passed away? Like, what would you do to honor that animal?
The simple answer?
Yeah. Sure.
Skin it and allow my daughter to have a test for her future mate.
Oh, good, because that's exactly what happens in the movie. He decides to skin the hide of the giant flea, present it in the throne room, and make a contest. Why he does this to his daughter, I don't know.
Nobody will ever be able to guess it because it's so fucking absurd. There's no way that would happen.
Yeah, and this would satisfy the daughter's desire to want to be married. So he set a tournament. He's like, I'm going to have a tournament.
Yes.
But
a flea guessing tournament.
Yeah, but it's not a tournament. It's more of a competition. But I thought I was going to get to see a tournament, and I didn't, and I was kind of sad because I wanted to see like a jousting or like a real fight or something. Like that would be cool. But this whole weird guessing was way more fairy tale-y and made more sense in the context of this movie. So he would have people come up and guess the whatever the hide is made out of, and they would say like giant manatee, and they'd be like, nope, wrong. And the daughter kept asking him like, well,
what is it?
Yeah, like I want some of these men to guess because I like them, and I, like why can't we just do it where I choose who I want to be married to? Because and that's a big thing in this too, of like just letting her live her own life. And it's like he's controlling her, but yet ignoring her at the same time. It's like, no, you have to stay home, but when you're home, I'm going to not give you any support anyways. So it's like, why even have her here? And this barbarian guy,
the ogre.
Later on we find out is an ogre, and this dude is giant. I don't know if he's that big in real life.
Yeah.
This fucker's hands are bigger than my head.
He's huge. Oh my god, it's crazy.
And he shows up, and they're like, they almost don't let him come up to the hide. They're like, whoa, we don't want this guy here. And the king is like, no, everyone can guess. And like the arrogance, and I'm like, he's gonna guess right, you fucking asshole. So he goes up there and he smells it, and that's how he figures out, of course, by smelling,
yes,
that it is a flea. And he just turns and looks and goes, oh, it's a flea. And the king
is like, what?
At this point, the princess knows that the hide is a giant flea. She thought it was a joke. The princess is so upset that she runs away crying. And the king is just sitting there. Now, at this point, if this king was a good king, he could just lie and say, no, that's wrong, and just say next. Like, the whole competition is so silly because the daughter could just, like, tap the king on the foot and just say, oh, that one, just pick that guy. And he's like, oh, yeah, you're right. You know, like, you just fucking lie. But no, of course not. Not in fairy tale land. The laws are too stringent.
Well, I mean, they're teaching children to not lie.
Yes. That's a very important lesson, and she's going to learn a whole lot more lessons. I mean, how many lessons do you think she learns over the course of this? It's too
Violet
many.
in specific?
Yes.
Oh, she learns
way more than anyone should ever learn. So she runs up to the tower of this castle. The king chases after her. She's going to throw herself off the roof.
She
it's
should
probably
have.
one of my favorite scenes. I like this scene a lot.
Yeah, because the king out of nowhere. What is that actor's name?
I don't recall. I like him a lot, though. I think I could find him here. Toby Jones.
Toby Jones.
King of the High Hills.
He has some fucking acting chops. Like, the whole time he's playing like a fucking doof. And then all of a sudden, whenever he's pissed off at his daughter, it's like, holy shit, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's crazy.
And they have a really good exchange of like, hey, I really thought this wasn't going to work out. I didn't think anyone could guess this, but I cannot go back in my word, or my word as king would mean nothing.
Here's the secret.
And
yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can. You're the fucking king, actually. You could just say that the ogre tricked you or uses magic. You could fucking make up any shit and then just have him killed. You can literally say anything. So then the daughter is just like, you don't give a shit about me at all, and you're gonna throw me away for your own petty honor and all this other stuff. And she made a lot of great points. And I don't know, it was a really tense scene where she's like, you don't fucking love me anyways. I guess I'm trapped with this guy, and I can see how she like wants to kill herself, but also
now the question becomes, why didn't she kill herself? Because she submits and goes with the monster, and her life becomes a living hell. Now the payoff for this is why she didn't kill herself at the beginning, but like, it's so hard to see that payoff coming because of how far away it is. Mm-hmm. So in the moment, you're like, you fucked up. Like, you could have easily just not done this.
But it's also, I would think, very difficult to throw yourself.
Yeah,
you know what
I mean?
Because like, at least she's going to go through a bad time, but at least she's alive.
Have you ever been penetrated by an ogre? I don't think so.
It's on my bucket list.
Donkey.
ogres have layers, donkey. And on each layer, we fuck. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, please imagine Shrek as the ogre for the rest of the film. Thank you.
Oh, yes, please, because
it'd be actually
awesome.
very funny if it was
Yes, it would be.
Mike Myers doing the voice of the ogre. So she goes with this dude, and he's just dragging her along, and you think, oh, well, maybe this is where I think the movie's going. He's gonna take her into the wilds, and she's gonna hate it at first. It's gonna be a classic tale, and then she learns to love the ogre, and she finds that he's very caring and strong, and she eventually somehow falls in love with him.
And
Nope,
boy, don't you think it's going to happen eventually?
that doesn't fucking happen, because she takes him up a fucking side of a mountain like we're watching The Princess Bride, and. Faster, damn you! Faster! I don't know if I forget what he says. And yet he gains! Inconceivable! And he takes her to this cave up on this cliff, and it's like bones everywhere, and it's all shitty and just dirty. And he really treats her bad. I mean, we don't have to get into it. We kind of alluded to what happens.
Yes.
But my God, is it horrible for her. And so she's being really mistreated by this guy. And while he's off hunting, she kind of goes out to the cliff, like the open area of the cliff, and sees some lady. And she's like, hey, please help me. And there's this big, canyon between the two of them. And she's like, please somehow get me out of here. I've been kidnapped by an ogre. And she's like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to bring my sons and my husband here to help you. And it turns out her family are entertainers, and that's a big thing throughout a lot of the.
I think they're the same entertainers from the beginning of the film.
Really?
Yeah.
What's interesting too is a lot of fairy tales, from what I know, involve entertainers. They involve normal people becoming kings or princesses, and they always involve kings. Like there's always some kind of royalty involved or shit like that. And usually some kind of like weird entertainer stuff too. And they come back to the next day, and they built this tightrope. How they did it, don't ask questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, like how did he get out to the other side to tie the rope? I don't know. Don't ask questions. But they make the tightrope, and he proceeds to carry the woman over his shoulder while he walks the tightrope, which is fucking cool. Mm-hmm. Then the ogre finds out, and he's crawling, he's going down the rope, and they manage to cut it before he gets there. They save the girl, and you're like, yay, everything's going to be happily ever after.
The ogre
She's going to join the circus.
A long way.
Yeah, the ogre falls. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you do think she's going to join the circus. Honestly, I thought, okay, whenever they're having fun in the back of that caravan thing,
yeah,
I literally thought, even though the film said 16 years later, that they were leading her back to that same castle, and it was going to be the beginning of the film. I'm like, oh, this is how the film's going to end. It's going to be really cool. But no, I'm sorry. Guess what happens, Jared?
What happens, Dan?
Ogre vengeance.
Ogre vengeance!
He fucking plows through the back of this caravan
like
as
we were
it's
watching
moving.
The Hills Have Eyes, or like some horror movie.
Yes.
He fucking strangle murders everyone there.
Yes,
God,
except for the mom and the younger son. And
yes.
Then he strangle murders them after they kind of get away from him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yes.
Everybody gets fucking murdered. Long story short, the son that's left and the mother try to fend off the ogre with
blowing
fire, which was
fire onto his face.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, but they get strangled. It was fucked up. And I love how the movie's playing with expectations. You think, oh, they're going to definitely save her, right? Mm-hmm. Why would they leave these characters alive? But no, it's a trick. They get both fucking strangled. And you're like, holy shit.
But then the best trick.
Away. Yeah.
The best trick is about to happen. She's running away.
Mm-hmm.
He finds her. And she submits. She's like, I can't fucking do this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to fucking go for it.
And then this is where I thought it was like, oh, maybe she is finally going to realize, like, oh, he went through all of this just to get back to me. Like, maybe she is falling in love. I don't know. It's a fairy tale.
So,
but go ahead.
There's this thing that he does at the beginning where he's like kind of motioning her to get on his back. He's like, "Hey, come on my back," and he pats his shoulder.
Yep.
And then he does that again after he like kind of rages into her face for a little bit.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Okay, yeah, I'll get on your back." And then just whenever you think that she's about to live happily ever after, she slits his fucking throat.
Yeah. Yes. So as soon as they lingered on that shot of her on his back for a little longer than they should have, I was like, "Oh no, she's gonna do something." And they had shown she had a knife earlier. And I was like, oh my God. And yeah, fucking slits his throat and he dies right there. And so him falling off of a cliff didn't kill him, but
slitting his throat, most certainly. But if you think it ends there, no. She returns home to daddy. Yeah. Covered in the beast's blood.
Yep.
With his head in a bag.
Yeah, severed fucking head.
Uncovers it. Looks in daddy's eyes and says, "This is the husband that you wanted for me."
Yeah.
And then daddy cries.
Like
oh, how he cries.
Well, what's great is that...
Please cry, daddy.
Please cry for me, daddy. The king is so distraught that he had given his daughter away that he becomes ill. Mm-hmm. And he regrets what he did, but yet doesn't try to fix the situation, doesn't send anybody to help his daughter, so he's still culpable in that way and still kind of an asshole. He's just like he's a weak-willed king, you know?
Yes.
And when he finally hears that his daughter had returned, he runs to go see her and then sees the blood and the head and everything. And I love this scene so much where he just falls on the ground and just bows to her and just weeping uncontrollably. And then she starts crying and everyone bows to her. And I'm like, this is nuts. This is out of control. Because the king is so upset at what had happened and what he had done to his daughter that he's like, listen, I'm giving up being king and a father to you. Like, I'm just going to be your servant, your subject, and you're going to fucking run the show now.
That comes to a head at the end of the film after we get through this last story.
Really awesome. I really liked it. The two hags. Dan,
so this story is the one where I'm like, oh my God, the cinematography in this film is amazing.
Because those granny titties?
Well, yes, but before we even get there, so where this king resides is, I don't know, like the land of fucking pool of fountain. Like his throne room or wherever he had his orgy party is in the middle of a fountain.
That was the fuckatorium.
The fuckatorium, excuse me.
That's not the throne room.
He wakes up drunk. There's women all over this room, like half in the water, half not. He's like the biggest scumbag. He goes up to each one of them and like makes out with them. He's like, "Hey, are you awake?" And then they push him away. He gets so pissed that he fucking punts a peacock.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Which is a real scene. It's a real fucking
bird
peacock.
right in
like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was wonderful. But then he hears something. He hears a resounding siren call coming from somewhere else in his kingdom. La, 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 la. And he runs. Well, the camera like tracks him backwards. Like the camera's looking at him, but it starts moving backwards through this really shadowy corridor. And he follows the camera through that corridor. I'm like, oh my God, this corridor that was the best film scene in the movie. Like, it was so well done. It was just a simple scene. Like, it was just from him getting from one section of the film to the next. Yeah. And it was so demanding on your eyes. It was great. Mm-hmm. Then he proceeds to yell drunkenly at this woman who's enticing him with her voice. And it's pretty bad.
It is really bad. And at first I'm like, I guess he's trying to pretend to be drunk. But man, this line delivery is rough. Anyway. Woof, I like to say. But it made me laugh, so I still was into it.
To speed up the process, essentially, he goes and he sees he can't get to this angel because she's behind the doors. But we know as an audience, the dramatic irony is it's a woman and her sister living together, and they're very old and ugly and saggy and gross.
Yeah.
And then
as soon as the woman's like,
hey, we can't just let the king go away. We can't pass up an opportunity like this. I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
They're going to try to trick this guy into sleeping with them.
Yeah.
The horn
or get
dog,
more jewels
creepo
out of him. 'Cause
king.
he sends gifts to them, this like really expensive necklace and stuff.
Yes.
But so the two women playing the old ladies are clearly not old ladies.
Yes.
They're young girls who have been given old lady makeup. And I will say that this old lady makeup is probably some of the best
Oh, yeah.
prosthetics for an old person I have seen in a film. They do a really good job, but it's still kind of noticeable because they don't act like old. Like they move like a young person, but they're old.
Like their voices don't necessarily like. There's not enough. Decaying timbre in the voice either.
Yes. So the costumes are great, but their acting during that was just like, let's move like we're 16-year-olds. I don't know. It was bizarre, but it gave them a weird charm of like, are they sick or something? Or are they just like,
okay, no. Here's the thing.
Bizarre.
This tale, I think I like the least, simply because every party here is not innocent. Like each one of the parties are just as awful as the other one. I think.
Yeah.
So you have the two old ladies who are trying to trick the prince or the king into sleeping with them, but then also the king is a total scumbag and he deserves it. So it's very hard to get behind the motives of this story.
Well, only one of the old hags wants to trick the king.
Yeah,
so
but then whenever the other old hag like gets her time to shine, she's just so disoriented and bewildered that like you don't want to follow her at all.
Yeah. So they first they're like, we can't open this door for the king, and the king is like, you better let me in because I want to bone zone everybody in there, and I'm the king and I can do whatever I want, so I could come in here forcefully. And they're like, well, okay, give us 1 week and we'll let you see our finger. And he's like, a finger?
And then, like, as soon as please tell me that you had the same thought, where it's like, are they going to shove it up his butt? I really hope I'm right about this.
Finger butt. And he comes back in a week. They try to do shit. They have, like, I don't know what the hell they do. They do some things to try to make their fingers look better. Doesn't work. And it turns out one of the girls actually has a normal looking finger, so they just use that. They stick it through the door, and he's like sucking on it and like, oh, I love it. La, 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 la. And then the lady is like, okay, I will have the sexing time with you, but you have to turn out all the candles, and we come to your palace, and we do it, but yeah, only in darkness. And he's like, all right. And so she gets invited. And what's funny is I don't even think the hag that goes was the one that was singing. I think it was the other woman. Mm-hmm. And she goes in there. She gets in the bed with the king. They have sex. And
you missed the really, really fun scene where they're trying to like fold their skin to make them look younger.
Ew, yeah. They like super glue their tits to their fucking back so they flatten out this. He would definitely feel the wrinklies and how weird this is. Oh, it was so weird. Oh, those prosthetics were so gross. And after their extensive lovemaking, the king is like, I want to use this candle to see her face. Because, like, he could definitely see her with regular light, but I don't know. And then he sees that it's the old hag, and he's like, ah! And he's so upset that he makes the guards throw her out the fucking window.
What is the fucking word that they do? Defenestrate?
Defenestrate.
They defenestrate, to throw somebody out of a window. There's a word for that.
Are you serious?
Yes.
There's a real word for that.
Defenestrate.
That sounds like when you're trying to demonstrate a definition by acting it out.
That too. That's the second definition.
What the fuck? Defenestrate. Hey, you can't say you didn't learn something today, you motherfuckers. So they wrap her up in that bed sheet, throw her out the fucking window. She gets caught on these branches, and it doesn't kill her. So she gets thrown, should be to her death, but the bed sheet saves her. And
then one of the most what the fuck moments in the film happens, where this other woman of the woods comes out, and she's like,
the
hey,
witch, basically.
Why don't you come out of that tree and then suck on my tit?
Yeah, that's normal, right? Like,
yeah.
Look, it looks like you've been having a hard time, so why don't you suck on my tit?
Yeah.
And why was the old granny, like, super cool? She's like, all right, I'm just, like, super into this. So
it's a fairy tale, duh.
Gets her down from the tree and just like, there, and just suckles on teat suckling. And then that transforms her into a young, beautiful woman. Oh.
Now,
And what?
she's a young, beautiful woman.
Uh-huh.
And please tell me that your thought process was the same exact thought process as mine. Because it cuts from that to the king with a gun.
Yeah, he's hunting.
But I didn't know or think that he was hunting. I thought he legitimately didn't think the woman died and was just coming down to make sure.
I absolutely wrote that as my note. He's like, oh, he's here to finish the job? I'm like, what's going on? And then it shows the boar. I was like, huh? Oh, he's just hunting now? Okay. And then he finds the woman. He immediately falls in love.
She is now the girl from Brave.
Yeah, basically.
Gigantic red hair.
So she's going to be betrothed to the king, to fuck King. King fucker. And she invites her old hag sister to come to the wedding, and she's there, and she's like all dressed up and shit. She's like, I don't know what's happening. And then they both have a meeting, the two hags. One's beautiful, one's not now. And she's like, hey, it's me. Don't be afraid, but we have to keep this a secret. There's a lot of scenes where it's like, we have to keep this a secret too. That happens a lot. And she's like, don't tell anybody that we're related, but I'm going to try to make life really good for you. But just don't fucking blow my cover. This is a top secret mission. And she's like, okay. And then the first thing the old hat lady does goes right up to some clergyman and is like, the queen's my sister. And you're like, you fucking idiot. That's the first thing you say. And then she won't leave the castle. They basically have to throw her out. And the old hag woman is demanding, like, I want to live here with you. I want to stay with you. And I want to become beautiful too, like you. How do I do it? And the other hag can't remember, which is interesting. She's like, I don't know how it happened. And then out of frustration, she just says, I was flayed. That's how it fucking happened. Now get out of here. But she takes it seriously, like you would think she would.
Yes,
she
of
dumb.
course.
So she gets thrown out. Oh no! First she hides. Well, she gets thrown out, and then she hides in a closet while the king and queen are boning, and she just steps out of the closet and is just staring at them. And the king thinks that the old hag from earlier came back, and he's like, "Oh my god, you again!" So he screams for the guards to come and take her away again. Oh god damn it! It was funny. So then, to make a long story short, she goes around and tries to find someone to flay her, which was fucking crazy. And she finds a man that will do it and pays him, and he takes her to the woods. And I'm like, surely something is going to stop this from happening. Like the witch is going to show up or something, or I don't know. Nope. They do a very far away shot of her getting flayed alive, and I was like, holy shit. And then she's just walking through the town covered in blood like, I'm beautiful now. I'm beautiful. And I'm just like, holy fucking shit. And then that's the last we see of that lady. Yeah. I guess it's assumed she's dead?
Yeah. Well, she lost a lot of blood.
And it's...
I mean, it's not that much of a fairy tale. Come on.
And it's kind of interesting because... The woman who became beautiful chooses the king over her sister that she's known for her entire life, her best friend, when just a day before that same king had thrown her out the window to kill her. So all three of them really kind of trade in love for riches and wealth and popularity, which is pretty cool. So they all basically get their comeuppance in the end. So now, at the very end of the movie, they're having a coronation for the the albino guy, because his mom is dead and he's the new king. So all the other kings show up. We have the new queen from the Flea Kingdom, and she's badass.
The Flea Kingdom.
Yeah. She's basically Khaleesi. And and then
Caligula?
we have... Not Caligula. Then we have King Fuck. He's more like Caligula. With his bride-to-be. And the ending shot is her hand starts turning into an old lady. And she's like, oh my God. And then she kind of runs away and she's turning into an old woman. So then it's kind of implied all three of them do get their comeuppance eventually. Yes. And then the movie kind of ends with this shot of a tightrope above them, because they're in like a courtyard. And the tightrope is on fire, and a guy is walking across the fiery tightrope. And I'm like, is that something to do with the tightrope of our lives and how it's a dangerous game we all play? I don't know.
Oh, duh.
I thought it was a cool way to end the movie.
Yeah,
well, it was supposed to be an homage,
image.
I guess.
And I don't know. I like how it was ambiguous because like it's a fairy tale and you're supposed to take, you take your own lessons away from fairy tales largely.
Well, I think it had a good closure to the ending because all the stories are basically wrapped up.
Yeah.
Because you can just kind of figure out what happens to the hag queen. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to end well for her. So, but then there could be more stories. Like this shit could have kept going. Like this could have been a TV series, and I would have been totally fucking fine with it.
Yes.
So, Dan,
I want it to be a TV series.
How did you feel?
How'd you
Final
feel?
thoughts?
Final thoughts? I would definitely watch this movie again. It was very awesome. Just looking at it, it was gorgeous. And just, I feel like this is a movie that you need to watch a second time. Like I probably will go watch it a second time sometime over summer.
Yeah.
Get more out of it.
Yeah, you probably would. I don't know if I have that need like you to watch it again because it is a long film.
It is.
It's a little over 2 hours. But I did enjoy it a lot. There's a lot to like about this film. And I had a lot of fun watching it. Even when it was getting a little silly, I still really enjoyed it. And if you like fairy tales, holy crap, this is definitely the best fairy tale movie I have ever seen, for sure. And with that, Dan, I believe you have something to assign us.
I do. Jared, I'm going to be taking you to Amazon Prime this week.
Okay.
Not to worry, it's not a bad film, as we have discussed.
Okay.
Now, this film came out a couple of years ago. It's something that I really wanted to see whenever it first came out, but I never had the opportunity to. And now it is on Amazon Prime. Opportunity? Yes.
Opportunity, yes. That's
Opportunity. Right. You now have the opportunity to see, along with me, a film called 99 Homes.
99 Homes, okay.
Has Michael Shannon as the lead actor along with Andrew Garfield. The plot description is a timely thriller about a single father who is evicted from his home, and his only chance to win it back is to go to work for the charismatic and ruthless businessman who evicted him in the first place. And of course, Michael Shannon plays the bad guy. So, I really want to watch it.
I think he can only play a bad guy.
Yeah, I think so. Ever since I watched The Shape of Water, I think like that just solidified it. I mean, Zod, I never watched Superman, but I knew he played Zod in it. But just watching him play a bad guy in Shape of Water was just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's Michael Shannon as Zod was a great pick, but that movie as a whole wasn't very good.
Right.
Like good casting, but just not a good movie. Michael Shannon's he's great. He's awesome. But yeah, this movie looks interesting. It's definitely a change of pace from what we've been doing.
But I mean, like I saw this trailer. Yeah, I saw this trailer a couple of years ago, and I'm like, oh, I really want to see this. So
I'm wondering how the thrills are going to come into place.
I don't know, but I'm looking forward to the excitement. 7 out of 10 on IMDb. That's decent.
Yeah, that's good. That is good. That's solid. Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see that. So, guys, you can find us at oldboys_podcast. If you are searching for us on Google or you're trying to tell somebody how to find us, have them type in either Podbean, then go to the Podbean website, and then in that search, just type Old Boys Podcast or Old Boys. You should be able to find us. It's Old Space Boys Space Podcast at podbean.com. Or you can reach us through just typing into Google Old Boys Podcast. We have a SoundCloud that's up there with different clips of the show, and there should be links there that will take you to Podbean. I don't know why we can't get fucking Podbean to show up first. Maybe it's different for other people, but I can't seem to get it to show up first. I don't know why. I feel like it's been long enough.
We still need a little bit more traffic because we had SoundCloud for 3 years. So
yeah, we had SoundCloud for a while, and we still get traffic. Like, people are still listening to those clips. So I don't know what they're doing. Hopefully they're coming to the new hosting site. So that's good, I guess. We're all over the place. And we're on Stitcher. We're on all those different things. So find us where you can find us. I hope this was something, guys. And Dan, you have the final word.
I still was kind of disappointed that Sonic and Shadow and Knuckles never showed up in this one. But I guess I can always just write it in my fanfic.